just those ones aren't that good. It's just the ones everyone knows. Anyway, we've been live. Okay. So, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. Dave Lochran, Ben Rasa. In case you're wondering, Josh Engelman, who usually joins me on Monday mornings, is out. He's got the flu, feeling sick, under the weather. So we wish you a speedy recovery, Josh. Hopefully you're better by Christmas. I think Ben, and I'm glad to have you with me, Ben, very solid fill-in host. So you guys are in good hands. I think the reason that he is out today is because the other day I said, we need to make a bet live on the strategy show. And whoever loses this bet has to go with nothing but a mustache for the entire week. Okay? Nothing but a mustache. He has to, okay. Both of us, I mean, I haven't shaved in God knows how long, but point being, I'd have to take all that off, nothing but a mustache. It's a heinous look for anyone that knows.
Yeah, how would your significant other receive that if you were the loser?
Don't care. Okay. It would have to happen. And I mean, it's a week. What's she gonna do? She can't be too upset about it, right? It's just facial hair, you know.
Yeah, a week's not terrible, but
I'm not going out and sneaking around on her, Ben. I'm just shaving off the sides of my face. But he was very averse to that. I thought he'd be all about it. He was not feeling it at all. So I don't know. I'm not saying he's faking the flu, but
suspect.
But it's suspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be funny to see.
It's well, I'm not making that bet, but yeah, I hope he gets back soon. We got 11 games, some real interesting ones looking at this slate, but happy holidays to everyone. Happy to sneak in on Christmas Eve, Festivus Day out in the world.
You strike me kind of as someone that like wouldn't grow facial hair, but now I look and you got some thick shadow going on there.
I mean, I don't, in this lifestyle, you don't have to, you can let yourself go here and there, but I did just shave somewhat recently.
Well, maybe you'll get in on the bet too.
Maybe I'll get in. We'll see what we can do.
Happy to have everyone with us. It's the eve of Christmas Eve. It's a good time to be alive, right? Everybody's happy. Christmas is coming up. You got 5 games on Christmas Day, which is, some of the best DFS around. But we still got today's slate, 11 of them. The NBA trying to pack in as many games as possible as we lead up to Christmas Eve, where no games are on the slate. Ben and I are going to break it all down. But before we do, Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports is the sponsor of the strategy show. The only place where you can become a baller, but also the only place where you can get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points simply by signing up with us at awesemo.com. How, you ask? Go to awesemo.com. Click on the NBA tab, and you'll see articles. The article's right there at the top. First or second one will be NBA Building Blocks by EMAC. It's a free article. Suggest you read it, but also scroll to the bottom for that Yahoo link. Click the link. Use the sign-up code AWESEMO. When you deposit, you get up to $30 in those YSRPs. They're as good as cash to be used on the site to play and win real money. And we got some great contests coming up. Like, how about Ben, the $200,000 NBA baller, the holiday baller, Wednesday at 12 p.m., $50,000 in overlay. This is going to fill quick. The turkey bone or whatever it was called, the turkey bone. I can't remember what it was called. Either way, that thing filled up super quick. That filled up 2 or 3 days before Thanksgiving. So I think this one will fill up quick. It's at 3.1 thousand out of 15K. $200,000 in prizes, $50,000 in overlay, $20,000 to first place. That is exciting stuff right there. Very exciting stuff. And the 30K baller tonight, 5K to first. For NFL, coming out $150,000 NFL baller, 15K to first. You have MME now, CSV uploads and edits. And if you look close enough, if you get in early enough, there's some management-free contests where everything paid in by the player gets paid back out to the player. And simply put, the competition just isn't as stiff as it is on some of these other sites. So head over to awesemo.com, click the NBA link, Cash Building Blocks article. Very simple. Might sound like tough. It's very simple. and click the Yahoo link at the bottom. Use the sign-up code AWESEMO and get your $30 in YSRPs. Get started off right over there at Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. All right, you ready to jump into this, Ben?
Let's do it.
All right.
So,
The Red Bull, of course.
Yeah, just a very healthy lifestyle. I try and take care of myself. In all seriousness, it's no joking matter. I know I look great, but
yeah. When the camera goes off, though, you don't see what happens after we cut. It's
yeah, the insides might be telling a different story. All right, so the first of 11 games is, to put it bluntly, a total shit show. Washington, New York. Why is it a shit show, you may ask? Well, I'll tell you. Washington has no players. And no, Matt, oddly enough, coffee, I get the shakes from coffee, which is very strange because I have a long and storied history of substance abuse. You wouldn't think that coffee would be something that would have played a role. Ben, I drink coffee and I get that very uncomfortable feeling. Are you a coffee drinker?
No, not at all.
You don't do anything. You're nuts. You just wake up.
Yeah, I'm a morning person, so I don't do.
You got to do some type of. You got to be, popping some Adderall.
Yeah, well, lose some, but no caffeine, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I can't do
methamphetamine now.
Yeah, well, but no, I'm a morning person, so I'm not a big coffee drinker.
All right, well, I'm glad you're a morning person because this next game takes some serious brain power to figure out.
Yes.
It opened with a 234.5 over under, 230.5 now. It's come down 4 points. The Knicks are 3.5 point favorites at Madison Square Garden. 116.5 implied total, 113 total for the Washington Wizards. I mean, listen to this though. Here are the players that are currently out for the Wizards. Not questionable, out. Thomas Bryant, Rui Hachimura, Mo Wagner, Davis Bertans, Jordan McRae is still out, and Isaiah Thomas is also out. So a ton of guys sidelines. I mean, this is at the point now where we're going to be talking about guys like Andrzej Paczniks, Pasechniks. They have so many injuries.
They are decimated. It's not, the backcourt with Isaiah Thomas, we see, okay, Ish Smith's going to be a quality player. We know Beal certainly going to get a ton of usage, but the front court, they are actually out of bodies. It's insane. I mean, we talk about, I was trying to picture before the show when I was looking over these games, who the Wizards are going to start. And it feels like Admiral Schofield is probably going to be a starter at this point. Mahimi's going to be thrown into major minutes. I don't know what else to really say besides these guys are all going to get a ton of run.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And there's no way you can really get away from this. Not only are they going to get a ton of minutes, but they're playing the Knicks. Yep. And they're going up against the New York Knicks in a game that still has a total north of 230. And here's the way I see it. The pricing is not even that bad on a lot of these guys. First of all, Bradley Beal at $9,300 on DraftKings is and $94 on FanDuel. I don't know how you get away from him. It's an 11-game slate, so we're still going to talk about a lot of really good players at decent price points on this slate. But with the way that Bradley Beal's playing in a matchup against the Knicks with no one else on this basketball team, he has to come into play. Looking at the rest of this team, Ish Smith's price tag has come back down to a somewhat reasonable level. $4,500 on DraftKings is reasonable against the Knicks. $4,500 on FanDuel is even more reasonable. I mean, I feel like and on Yahoo, Ish Smith is weighing in at 15, which is fine. Beal is coming in at 46. How are we prioritizing these guys today on an 11 gamer? I know that this Pasechniks will presumably get some minutes. He played 22 minutes last game, but it still doesn't leave them with much.
It really doesn't. And yeah, you can look at it two ways. It's kind of interesting. Bradley Beal, if this was say a 5 or a 6 game slate, would be super high owned. But with 11 games, even though he's in a great spot, you're going to have people going all over the place because there's a lot of spots to go to, a lot of places to pay up. But this is one of my favorites right off the bat. You mentioned the matchup. I don't know what scenario where he doesn't take 20 plus shots tonight. I can't imagine basically any. The volume is going to be there. The minutes are going to be there. And he's really going to be a one-man team tonight. And then if you look at the value, Ish Smith coming off a terrible game, but he's going to have the minutes, which are more important. The front court, I'm a little more confused about, to be honest. I guess Mahimi, he's very reasonably priced. I just don't know exactly where those minutes are going to be. I think he, out of necessity, is going to have to play upper 20s. But other than that, I don't know if I'll go to a guy like Schofield. Maybe if we get word he's starting, but that's about it. Ton of value, ton of options with this team that's decimated right now.
So I'm just looking at, I'm writing all this down now to see what they actually have. Okay. Let's see how many players are actually going to be active today, assuming they don't bring anyone up from the G League, because it's definitely a possibility, right? So you have Ish Smith, Justin Robinson, Beal, Brown, Matthews. That's 5. I think Matthews should be on the roster because I believe he played last game. Yeah, that's 5. Bonga, Schofield, Mahinmi, Pasechniks. That's 9. And outside of Beal and like maybe Troy Brown and Mahinmi, who some people have heard of, a lot of these guys you've never heard of before. A lot of them I had never heard of before until these recent injuries came into play. So
yeah, these are guys that I like. Garrison Matthews, I'm stunned he's in the, he went to Lipscomb. I know them from college basketball. Can't believe he's on the team. I was stunned to see that. And you just mentioned they don't have pretty much anyone. And this is you would think, oh man, big blowout risk tonight, but this is against the Knicks. This is going to be a competitive game. The pace is good. We know how the Wizards are awful at defense. So of course the New York side has a ton of plays, but this is going to be a very popular game on an 11-game slate, but for good reason.
We were asked to touch on the Knicks bench or the Wizards bench.
They
what bench? I know what you're saying, but I mean, here's the thing. Schofield probably going to play 32 or so minutes, like maybe more. I'm serious, Ben, because Bertans was playing 37 minutes per game recently. 37.
So who do you like? I was trying to do this morning. Who do you think the starting 5 is going to be?
Okay, so it's Ish Smith
and Beal
and
Mahimi.
And Bonga, right? Because he's been starting even though he hasn't been playing a ton of minutes. Did he start last game? That was on Saturday, and I don't really pay attention to basketball on Saturday, but I'll check. I'm assuming he did. He had been starting, but
that was against your boys.
Yeah. We had a little family party at the house. He started. Okay. So it'd be him. It would be Ish, Beal, Bonga, and then I would assume that it's probably Schofield and Mahinmi.
That's what I think. Yep.
And then does Pasechniks back up Mahinmi this entire game? See, that's tough to say because the rotations from this last game were kind of weird, and I don't know what they're going to look like today. But I would assume that he ends up backing up Mahinmi and probably plays like 24, 25 minutes.
I think that's fair. I mean, it looks like he could spell both of, whether it's Schofield or Mahimi. Troy Brown, of course, is going to be coming off the bench for the guard position. But other than that, there is nobody else realistically. And you mentioned guys like Admiral Schofield. They're going to be thrust into maybe 30 plus minutes. The rotations are very difficult because we just haven't seen a situation like this. We know, of course, guys like Beal are going to get theirs. And then it's just, do we want to spend the value here? As more Q tags open up, you're going to have more options, in terms of opening up salary.
By the way, have you ever pulled up Admiral Schofield's, do you have DraftKings open by any chance?
I'm looking at his picture.
Dude,
Guy's a baller. Big fan of him.
that is the funniest picture I've ever seen in my life.
He's the man. He was so good in college.
Well, he hasn't been very good recently.
No, he hasn't.
I don't know. Okay, so I would just say this. Beal probably plays like 40 minutes. Ish Smith probably plays 35 minutes. Brown probably plays around 30, 32, probably off the bench. And I would assume he gets some backup 4. Mahinmi, I don't know. Like it seems like Scott Brooks still isn't interested in giving him considerable runs. So I give him around 24, 25, maybe 26. I think, did they bring up Gary? Do they have Gary Payton now? I think they do. Let's see here. Gary Payton reportedly near deal with Washington Wizards. I think they did. He's not in the player pool, but I think he might be on the roster today. Even so, that would only give them 10.
And those are, backcourt minutes, which.
Yeah. Actually, 9. Maybe Justin Robinson isn't with the team. Either way, I think Justin Robinson isn't with the team anymore. This is a tough one to figure out. Either way, I think Schofield gets 30 plus. Brown gets 30 plus. Ish gets 35, maybe more. Bradley Beal plays 38 plus. And then Pasechniks plays like low to mid 20s, backs up mostly at 5. Isaac Bonga plays 24 to 26. And then Peyton and Matthews and those guys end up getting like 15 or 20 minutes apiece.
I think that's kind of in line with how I'm looking at this. And if that is the case, and the thing is, these are such tight rotations out of necessity, it's hard to not like these spots because, if Beal or Ish, there's nowhere else they can go. It's not, they may play bad, but they're going to have every opportunity in terms of volume and the minutes, and that's really all we could ask for.
Is Beal a priority?
He is, even on an 11-game slate. You're going to have options, of course, but I just look at, we'll get there, but I honestly didn't find myself really looking to spend, Trae Young north of 11. That was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, wow.
I really didn't see that. So I don't mind even starting lineups with Beal and really attacking a balanced build today.
Okay. I know we spent a lot of time on this game, but there's plenty that we won't be spending time on. It's just we need to break this down as in-depth as possible. And look, everything's subject to change. It's still very early in the day, but from a foundational standpoint, we want to make sure that we're tackling everything. The New York Knicks. What are we thinking with the Knicks here? RJ Barrett is under, well, I'd say at least reasonably priced here. He has not been very good. I mean, this guy can go out and play 30 minutes and give you 10 fantasy points. It's pretty scary, to be honest. But if there was ever a spot where you would be perfectly willing to pay for him, in my opinion, this is one of those spots. Elfrid Payton has been seeing his minutes slowly creep up. Played 27 minutes last game. I don't know how much of that was because they want to give him minutes or because the game got out of control, but he probably gets similar run today. Did he close this game out? He didn't. So he actually got yanked over the last 5 or 6 minutes in the blowout. What are you doing with the Knicks?
Yeah, amazing spot on the other side of this game. You mentioned Barrett and Elf. I have they're priced, I think, appropriately. Washington's defense is awful. They play fast. It's a great spot. And then the other guy that stood out to me was Julius Randle in the front court. We already spent time talking about who the Washington bigs are tonight. Randle should have a feast on the boards against these type of guys. The minutes should be there, in my opinion. Double threat. And the price, again, when you're looking at a balanced build, which I'm kind of gravitating towards, he fits nicely. So I think you can easily target these Knicks despite what, it's another rough season for the old Knicks, but this is a great spot for the team.
Yeah, and I don't know what to think of Mitchell Robinson, but on a per minute basis, he's very good.
He just, if he was creeping towards 30 more often, I would
for sure.
He just the minutes worry me a bit. I see what you're saying. Yeah, if he can hit near 30, definitely in this spot could have a huge game. But if he gives you, 24 minutes or something like that, I'd probably look elsewhere.
Yeah, and this guy just keeps fouling out.
Yep.
I mean, it's out of control how often he is fouling out. He fouled out in each of his last 2 games.
Yep.
So, as a tournament option, maybe. The problem is the price is just like you said. It's getting up there for a guy that, like, if he plays 30 minutes, you're getting an outlier game, and that's tough to get to. Anyway, let's move it on here. Spend enough time on that game. Indiana and Toronto. So, here's another team that's been dealt a ton of injuries, right? The Toronto Raptors are 6-point dogs against the Pacers, 211 or 211 over under. Their total's 102.5, 108.5 for the Pacers. And when you look at this Toronto team, Siakam is out indefinitely. So is Marc Gasol. I don't know when Marc Gasol is coming back, but he's expected to miss at least a couple or a few weeks. And then you're also without Norman Powell. Norman Powell injury is pretty big. Subluxation of the left shoulder, out indefinitely. Again, he had been playing 30-plus minutes. And Fred VanVleet had left yesterday's game, but then returned. So I guess he's fine. I'm assuming he's okay. They still have a lot of big injuries. That's like, I don't know, that's like 70 total minutes. No, more than that. It's 70 between Gasol and Siakam. Around that. And then probably, another 25 or so from Norman Powell. What do you make of Toronto against the Pacers?
So, yeah, Toronto, this is their 3rd in 4 games. Yesterday was outrageous. I don't know if you saw that, but they made maybe the craziest comeback of the year.
They were down
Dallas.
30, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
how do you even do that?
I don't know.
By the way, they were down 30 with, I think, like 3 minutes left in the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is it wasn't like they stole it at the end. By the time there was 5 minutes left in the 4th quarter, they were, it was like tied again.
They had a lead here, yeah.
It's just unreal. But I'll say this, I think just caution right off the bat when you look at this game, and I don't blame Nurse at all. He was riding that second unit, that hot hand. So if you look, Ibaka stands out immediately where you're like, oh, man, you only played 24 minutes. That's because they stuck with who was bringing them back. I don't worry about that at all. I like him in a bounce back spot tonight. I actually like I said, 3rd game in 4 nights that he didn't play heavy minutes like Lowry did. And I think he's my preferred option against the Pacers front court.
Yeah, I mean, Hollis Jefferson, Boucher, Terrence Davis. Isn't that lovely? Terrence Davis finally gets minutes. He ended up playing 23. You're right, though. This should not be looked at as a normality. I mean, this was an outlier. And we saw it, 2 games ago against Washington, where you had Ibaka play 36. And that's around where I think I had him at 34. But I would expect him to get back closer to that. I will say, though, it's actually encouraging. I didn't play NBA DFS yesterday, so it didn't hurt me. But it's actually encouraging because these guys on the second of a back-to-back, I think you said 3 and 4 days. Well, normally you'd be saying, damn, Ibaka's coming off 35 minutes. Van Vliet's coming off huge minutes. Well, outside of Kyle Lowry, who played 41 in regulation, most of these starters saw their playing time curtailed pretty significantly. Is that enough for you to get there, or are these prices just too high for you today?
I mean, I don't love the prices, to be honest, but I think it is a positive. As you mentioned, the minutes were down. The usage for VanVleet is massive with guys like Siakam off the court. So I don't mind it. Lowry is the one I am concerned. He's played over 80 minutes in those last 2 games combined. Heavy minutes. And this is a tough spot, on the road against the Pacers, who've been surprisingly good. So for me, again, I think you can look to these guys on an 11-game slate, unlike Bradley Beal. You asked me before in terms of priority. If I find myself needing to go to Ibaka or VanVleet, I don't mind it, but I'm not going to force them in either. There's just so many options in that range.
Okay. Yeah, Ibaka, 21% usage rate with VanVleet and Lowry on the floor this season. So we know he has a very high usage rate on the year, around 27%, but it's definitely going to see a bit of he's going to come backwards a little bit playing alongside those guys. But 14% rebound rate is pretty solid. and 0.9 fantasy points per minute. He's only played 105 minutes alongside those guys, but those price points are getting up to a point where they were playing Washington the other day. More than happy to pay a premium for him there. In this spot, I don't think I'm as inclined to get there, especially with 10 other games to choose from. Is there any interest in the Pacers for you today?
Not really. You can always make a case for some of their, Sabonis. He looks like he's good to go once again. Was effective last night, really effective, 19 and 18. But I don't think I'm going to be chasing that. And other than that, they didn't really stand out. You got the holidays in the backcourt with Jeremy Lamb out. There's just other spots that I think trump them kind of in no matter what you're looking at. When you look at value, we've already talked about guys on the Wizards. When you look at pay up options, Sabonis, I would just take Ibaka on the other side of the game. So for me, just not too many other games on an 11 gamer.
If Sabonis is out, is there any interest in a Miles Turner here? He's $5,100 on DraftKings now.
Yeah, if Sabonis sat, I wouldn't mind that on either, 5,600 on FanDuel as well. But that would be, again, that is something the news will dictate what I really do with the team like the Pacers. If something opens up, absolutely. But if not, I don't mind getting away from them.
Okay. Yeah. And he's also playing the second of a back-to-back here, which, means something. And Sabonis is playing some center minutes. So I wouldn't say he's playing a ton of them, but he's playing probably like 8 or 9 per game. I would think that Batadze gets some, and then Miles Turner would pick up extra run. You want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, this game to me was towards the bottom when I was ranking them.
I agree. Yeah, right now 211 over under, which really isn't that high, but more so you're starting to see the salaries increase, that we've had time to adjust for the Toronto injuries, and kind of across the board. Like Ibaka's up to 7,900 on FanDuel. I don't think that's crazy, but it's not super appealing. Lowry's 84. Again, not crazy at all. They're better. They're priced better on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings. I'll say that much. 75 for Van Vliet. Orlando and Chicago. This game in Orlando. Right now, the total on this game is expectedly very, very low. As a matter of fact, we have a couple games that we don't have totals on yet. Right now, this is the lowest on the slate. And looking at these games, I would assume it will still remain the lowest. Maybe the Denver game, but 208. Bulls are 5-point dogs on the road, 101.5 total, 106.5 for the Magic. I would say in large part, this is a pretty unappealing game. Levine is going to play. Wendell Carter Jr. is going to play. Any significant injuries that could have changed things doesn't look like they're going to have any effect. And the guys that would need not to play are set to play. Unless you have something here that you like, there's not much that I'm seeing in a very slow-paced game between two pretty bad basketball teams.
So for me, the one guy that stood out is on the Magic side, and it's Vooch.
Yeah, 8,200.
Yeah, 8,277 over on FanDuel. And I think he can really have success against this Bulls front court. His minutes are secure. He's going to have the peripherals. We just saw, not going to be having 6 steals every night, of course, but this is a guy that can get it done in a lot of different ways. So he would be the one guy that I kind of gravitated towards. I looked closely at Aaron Gordon. I love the 17 shots, but 4 of 17, not going to get it done. The price is middling, though. I think you could get there. It's just the opportunity cost with so many other guys in that same range is probably not enough for me to really get a ton of leverage with him. But those were really the only 2 options I saw from the entire game, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, the salary, like the prices on a lot of these guys are cheap. Aaron Gordon on DraftKings is 6,100. Jonathan Isaac is down to 6K. But, they've been highly underwhelming. And I just, with 11 games, it's a little bit more difficult for me to get here than I normally would, because I honestly think Isaac and Gordon are both decent values here. For me, though, it's just who am I going to prioritize them over? That's kind of where it's difficult for me, Ben, because I looked at these Magic options or players, and you say, all right, they're priced nicely, and the they get technically a pace-up matchup because they play so slow. They play at a bottom 4 pace, but I can't say that I'm really excited about this. Plus, the Bulls' defense. Let's not forget the Bulls defensively have actually played pretty well. They have a top 10 defensive rating on the season, which might shock some people. Top 10 defensive rating on the season, and over the last month, they certainly haven't gotten any worse. Over the last 30 days, get this, they are 5th in defensive rating, sandwiched in between the Sixers at 4 and the Celtics at 6. So I wouldn't sleep on the Bulls defense. They are playing well.
Yeah, that's shocking to me. It really is. And, you mentioned it. I think that's what all the time, I know we get in the Slack community, we get questions and it's like, do you like this guy? And it's a lot of times it's I do, but you're not just weighing him in a vacuum. It's against other players. So each roster spot is an opportunity cost. And for 11 games, someone like you mentioned, Isaac, Aaron Gordon, also in that same bucket for me, other guys and other teams, I think have just easier paths to success. So maybe in a large field tournament with some upside, because those guys, I think, do have some good ceilings, but Vooch is the only one where I'm prioritizing trying to get to him.
Okay. Anything from the Bulls side?
Yeah, honestly, not really. I don't know if nothing really stood out. You mentioned Levine. I'm not looking to really pay that tag for him. And as you work down, I really didn't see much that drew my attention. Do you have anything from them?
Not really. I mean, it's a wildly unappealing game on pretty much all fronts because Orlando defensively has been worse over the past 30 days. But on the season, they still haven't been terrible. They also play at a crawling pace. I mean, 98 possessions per 48. They play at the 4th slowest pace. They have the 12th ranked defense. It's just not a good game. And the only argument you can make, like both of us were saying, is, okay, you're getting discounts on Gordon and Isaac and Vooch. And I think Vooch is totally fine here because just from an upside standpoint, he can come out there and give you a monster, 30-point, 15 rebound, 3-4 stock game, and you feel good about it. But I still don't think that with the players around them, I'm going to get to much Gordon or Isaac, even though they're priced nicely. And Chicago, if everyone's playing, if everyone's healthy, then I simply do not see myself getting there. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And Chad mentioned, and it's worth bringing up, DJ Augustine. I think he's fine, if you're looking for value. But again, you've got guys like Ish Smith. You have some other values. And the Bulls are, it's crazy to say that. I guess I have to get used to it. They've been very solid defensively. So I'm kind of indifferent to that play. I get why you're gravitating there, but not a priority for me.
Right. Yeah, look, Augustine is fine, but he falls into the exact same category as an Isaac or an Aaron Gordon.
Same. Yep.
Atlanta, Cleveland. Here's a fun one.
Yeah,
Cleveland Cavaliers right now are 1-point favorites here, 228.5 total, 114.8 implied for the Cavs, 113.8 for the Atlanta Hawks. You mentioned it, Trae Young, very, very expensive, up north of $11,000 on DraftKings. That is pretty crazy. I mean, he's 47 on Yahoo, so it's $1 more than Beal, $1 more than Joel Embiid, $2 more than Westbrook, $4 more than Butler. So that's not crazy when you consider Harden is 59. But and then on FanDuel, Harden's $12K. Just to put it in context, Trae Young is 10.3. On DraftKings, Trae Young is more expensive than James Harden. That is a completely untenable position. There's no way that you could make an argument. Well, maybe you could make an argument. I don't know. But going Trae Young over James Harden to me is absurd.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only argument that you can do in situations like this is that if you're going to get